Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. And my very own L to the A to the G to the O to the S, Lagos. It's a new week and the last month of the year of 2024. It's December and I'm so excited to be ushering you into the last phase of 2024. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the most unique platform you come across. That is Ways Breakfast, hashtag What Are You Saying? The premier platform for thought-provoking discussions on critical issues shaping Nigeria's future. I'm your anchor, Okikiola Taiwo Jalupo, and I'm here alongside my graceful sister and my co-anchor to explore a very timely and important topic: government policies and their impact on the economy, society, and individuals. If you want to follow this discussion and all other discussions that we have, tune in every Monday morning to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Upgrade TV. I'm here to introduce to you, drum rolls, the most intelligent lady you should know. Good morning, God's beauty.
Good morning.
Good morning, God's beauty. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I mean, as you can see, I'm beautiful. How
as
are
always, as always. How was your weekend? Tell me.
I think I needed to clear my throat because the weekend was chaotic. I mean, yesterday was Thanksgiving, all thanks to God. You know that it's important that from January to, the last minute you're seeing things that are really going well and you're like, okay, you have to be grateful to the Creator. So that's literally what yesterday was like. Now, the fact that I'm also part of the chorus has made it more, overwhelming because, we're done with work on Friday, go home pretty late. And, I'm literally just recovering from the whole illness and all of that. I've not been able to rest properly. Then I had Saturday, I had to go everywhere. So I'm going to the tailor to go and ask, Oga, where are my clothes?
Before December,
do you understand?
Full of disappointment.
It was just all crazy. Then going to church to do the whole, choir thing. You're done with, with the, what do you call it now, rehearsal. Then you're not teaching the younger ones because they too have to participate in the whole Thanksgiving thing. They had to sing jazz, they had to do drama, they had to dance. And because I'm always everywhere, they somehow just put me on all of them. They're, God's beauty will be a good friend.
Well, they said the reward for good work is more work. So you are doing great work.
Exactly.
For me, I think my weekend was as chaotic as yours. It's just that this morning, I almost felt like, why am I here? And then on Sunday, I was like, yes, December. Because it was also Thanksgiving in my church also. So I was very excited for December. Plus, they shared small chops and drinks and all of that stuff. But then Monday now came with a lot of bass-boss. But I'm so excited to be here already. And I already told the audiences that I'm also excited to be, bringing them into December proper, and I'm smelling Christmas everywhere. Christmas. I don't have Christmas lights, so if anybody wants to offer me Christmas light, please do. And if you're also yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, click the subscribe button now, like and share the link. You can also tune in on channel 145 on your Go TV. You shouldn't miss this. Let's go on a break right now, and when we return, we'll take you through the top stories across the globe. Stay with us.
Another is here. God's agenda for 2024 is wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing that makes things work. Everybody needs the oil of wisdom. The challenges are changing dimensions. So the wisdom to deal with them must keep changing dimensions. It's time to get wiser.
God terminated 8 years barrenness in this exalted altar.
I get back to the set of twin baby boys at 50 years after 17 and a half years.
Lord, I need the baptism of this ever-winning wisdom. Shiloh 2024 is December 10 to 15. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Great to have you back from that break. Now, let us take a look at news from the pages of today's newspaper. We have The Guardian, we have The Punch, and of course, The New York Times. We'll be starting with The New York Times as I will usher my lady in. Please take us abroad as usual.
Straight into the international space, New York Times newspaper. But the right side of the newspaper, we have Trump intends to make Patel head of FBI, pressing Ray to quit before he is fired. That's sounding chaotic already. Next to that, rebels in Syria take over most of largest city. But the left side of the newspaper, recruiters on Mexican college campuses decartel. Beneath that, in India, exams crucial enough to stage a heist. Next to that, which is the last headline on the newspaper, has draft dodging plays Harris claim rights, planes in theirs. All right, so the one I want to quickly touch on was the first one we all read together. That's by the right side of the newspaper that says Trump intends to make Patel head of FBI. So the New York Times is recording that President-elect Donald Trump plans to nominate Kash Patel as FBI director, replacing Christopher. Patel is a vocal critic of the FBI and supports radical reforms in law enforcement, including leadership changes and restructuring. Now, Patel lacks the traditional experience required for this role, and his nomination aligns with Trump's ongoing efforts to address perceived bias and corruption in federal agencies. This move could face Senate resistance and shake up the FBI. Now, what is really concerning, right? It says critics worry that this could further publicize the FBI, undermine public trust in law enforcement, and disrupt the agencies. And that's the truth. Number one, this guy in question, he doesn't have, just like it is stated here, that he doesn't have the traditional experience that is required to take up this task. So why are you nominating him? You're nominating him so that this guy, that's Christopher Ray, can actually look at it and say, okay, I don't have a choice, so let me just resign. And you don't want to get him fired, so it's not looking like, oh, you actually take this guy out that is actually competent, enough to do the job. You feel me? So honestly speaking, I really don't know what the plans of Trump. Okay, let me not say I don't know what the plans are. I would say the plans that he has already stated. I just hope that it is for the good of the country and not just for himself. You feel me? Because tell me why someone that's not done anything to you, you want to take him out. It just takes us back to that last, there's a time we had a conversation around him taking out certain kind of persons in power and putting in his own people. Yeah. You feel me? So, even if my own is, if you're putting your people, you should ensure that the people that are putting there are people that are qualified for the job, are competent enough to do the work. Do you get what I'm saying? Because again, just as the New York Times recorded, this guy doesn't have the traditional experience. So tell me why you're nominating someone that doesn't have traditional experience to take off the FBI.
I think what's very common in Nigerian and even the West African politics is just the fact that when somebody in power gets in, there's always this scratch of whoever was there before, whether competent or not, and then they bring in their own people. And
the annoying part, we literally cannot do anything about it because it is even backed up by the Constitution. They even made the Constitution, so what are we even saying?
Well, if the people who make the law break the law, who's going to take them up to it?
Exactly.
Anyways, taking you through the Guardian newspaper right now, the headline reads, Labour begins nationwide strike, cites empty promises by governors. Below that, we have Atiku Zulum lead Northern opposition against tax bills ahead of NAS debate. Obasanjo says, I never knew Gowon saved me from Abacha. Another story reads, Splinter APC group moves to register with INEC for 2027. And the last but not the least story I'll take here is judiciary graft. Abuse of power diminish public confidence, AGF says. In relation to what we're going to be talking about today is this nationwide strike and these tax bills going on. And you see so many people coming, giving their own opinion about the tax reform bill, giving opinions about why certain people should go on strike and why they shouldn't go on strike. But I will always say that it is such a crucial time in Nigeria for strikes to be going on when we know fully well that nothing really ever gets done when people go on strike. It's always like back-end conversation from there. The strike will be cancelled and then we are back again in another 6 months. And then I will take us through the Punch newspaper again quickly. I'll just take one story from the Punch newspaper. Is also the fact that on tax reform, the House of Representatives suspend debate indefinitely as northern governors mount pressures. 72 lawmakers, including Zulum, Tambuwa, reject bills. APC slams critics as northern groups protest. Here again about the tax reform. The northern governors have been the one now saying that we do not appreciate the tax reform bill, and then they have proposed that this tax reform bill should be doing this, should be doing that, should be blessing this person, should be favoring all Nigerians, where tax will be exempted for certain commodities and certain people, and then tax would they will impose tax on certain goods that should be regulated. So I wonder why the North is saying that they don't really appreciate what is really happening as regards tax reforms. And you also see how it's almost like the APC against the APC now in the House of Representatives. It's good to know that there's diverse opinion, because sometimes most of the common things we have seen is that they just say, APC says, give us time. And then you see that it's almost like a consensus that they all agree to that thing. But now there's now like diversity where certain APC faction is saying that we agree to the reform bills, and certain faction is saying we don't agree. And then we know that we have most APC people to be from like northern governors. So, I mean, we'll be discussing the tax reform a little bit today, but it's also very important that people are aware of these tax reform bills, so many other bills that are being introduced in Nigeria, especially policies that are now guiding us as Nigerians. So this is all we'll have today on the newspapers. We will go on a break right now, and when we come back, we'll return with our topic for today. Stay with us.
Another is here. God's agenda for 2024 is wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing that makes things work. Everybody needs the oil of wisdom. The challenges are changing dimensions. So the wisdom to deal with them must keep changing dimensions. It's time to get wiser.
God terminated 8 years barrenness in this exalted altar.
I get back to a set of twin baby boys at 50 years after 17 and a half years.
Lord, I need the baptism of this ever-winning wisdom. Shiloh 2024 is December 10 to 15. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Imagine the world where the voices of the youth finally get the spotlight they deserve.
Welcome to Ways Breakfast, the groundbreaking show where young minds unite together to tackle issues that truly matter.
We're flipping the script on traditional morning talk shows, and this is your chance to hear the youth speak out.
We're not just skimming headlines, we're diving deep into the heart of topics that impact us all.
From politics to governance, tech innovations, mental health, and trendy social issues.
We don't just discuss, we ignite conversations that inspire change and spark action.
Join us every morning for fresh, young, and vibrant perspectives
that empowers the next generation to make a difference.
Start your day right with Ways Breakfast, because when the youth speak, the world listens. Ways Breakfast, weekdays at 8 a.m. live on Upgrade TV.
Looking to take your business to the next level through partnerships? Then join us every Thursday at 10 a.m. for Partner Up.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, marketing, sales, or partnership professional,
Partner Up is here to give you the tools you need to succeed. From in-depth interviews with industry experts to real-world case studies of successful partnership strategies that drive innovation and business growth. We dive deep into what it takes to form successful partnerships. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss Partner Up.
The fact remains, I agree with honestly, I agree with you, that the responsibility of ensuring the protection of our children within the school system is in the hand of the parents. If the parents fail, nobody is coming for our children, the government is not coming for our children. You can see what is going on. What is the position of the Federal Ministry of Education and the institution responsible for universities in Nigeria? In the case of Ajayi Crowther University, have they issued a statement? Have they issued a statement in respect of Veritas? They've not. They are not interested. So when we keep putting our faith in the hands of people that have shown through their ways, their character, that are not interested in governance, but in their own pockets, in things that work for them. Why do we want to pretend?
Welcome back to the show. As mentioned earlier, today's topic is the effect of government policies and their impact on the economy. We'll be examining various government policies that have shaped Nigeria's economy, society, and individual lives, from the tax reform bills to the removal of fuel subsidy, NHIS, universal basic education, national minimum wage, reps addressing discos, that's distribution companies, and calling them out on their impunity, constitutional review, and the likes. Well, we'll start with government policies have a profound impact on Nigeria's economy, society, and individuals. The government's effort to diversify the economy through policies like the universal basic education, NHIS, tax reform bills, and the likes are crucial for sustainable growth. However, some policies have had a negative impact on the economy, such as multiple exchange rates. The government policy of maintaining multiple exchange rates have created uncertainty and discouraged foreign investment, and to add import restrictions that have increased the cost of livelihood. We've also had high interest rates, which has made borrowing expensive for businesses and individuals, hindering economic growth. Policies like the National Health Insurance Scheme, which is the NHIS, also aim to improve healthcare outcomes for Nigerians. However, the scheme's effectiveness is hindered by inadequate funding and inefficient implementation. The government policies on the education, such as the Universal Basic Education program, have also increased access to education, but challenges persist in terms of quality and equity. Some more negative policies that have also had a negative impact include the fuel subsidy removal, which has increased the cost of transportation and living, disproportionately affecting low-income households. Policies like the National Minimum Wage Act have also improved the standard of living for some Nigerians. However, the impact is limited by factors like inflation, which erodes the purchasing power of minimum wage. High taxes have also reduced the disposable income of individuals and businesses, making it harder for them to make ends meet. Overall, government policies have both positive and negative impacts on the economy, society, and individuals. Effective implementation, adequate funding, and a focus on inclusive growth are crucial for policies to achieve their intended outcomes. As we explore this topic, we'll be discussing the intended and unintended consequences of these policies. We're joined by a special guest here in the studio who goes by the name Adepoju Emmanuel Enitan. Adepoju Enitan is a political science student graduate of the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He has gained valuable experience through internships at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs and the Lagos State House of Assembly. Currently, he serves as the Director of Media and Publicity for Ikorodu Division Youth, the largest local government area in Lagos State. Recently, he received an award for excellence for hosting the 2024 Ikorodu Division Youth Summit. Adepoju has participated in several leadership training programs, including those organized by the Yaga Africa, with a focus on youth inclusion and governance. He is passionate about enhancing youth participation in governance. Welcome, Enitan. Well, it's good to see you here again.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I hope you enjoyed the first time. I'm sure that's why you're here again today, right? Well, welcome. Today we'll be discussing government policies. And then I've mentioned so many things, from tax reforms to minimum wage to fuel subsidy removal. These are policies that we have experienced this year and last year from the current administration. And we have had a tax expert come and talk to us about tax reform bills. We have spoken about the minimum wage over and over and over again. But we want to also see it not from the tax expert or the minimum wage expert. So we now want to see it from the youth perspectives, what the youth and what you think that, as somebody who is also part of the government now, say that, because now you are now part of politics, so you're part of the government, you're part of the people and all of that. We want to see what part of, or what your idea is about all these whole reform bills and policies that have been implemented, and some still in their first or second reading in the House now. So first of all, how many of these policies have you read about or come across, and how do you think, in your opinion, has impacted, the economy?
Okay, thank you very much. So when we look at policy itself, policies are decision and action taken by the government to resolve societal issues. However, we've realized that most of these policies, at times, they are not adequately being made. Coming from a scholarly as angle from this policy making, we have a scholar, David Easton, who made ways whereby policy should be made, and he propounded a formula. And in that formula, there is what is known as the input and the output. In the input, we have the demand and the supply. That is, the people make demand that, okay, we want certain policies and decisions. And then when the government decides that, okay, they want to supply, like they want to make such policy, it gets into the conversion board. And this conversion board constitutes those people that make policies, such as the arms of government, the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, and the bureaucrats, because we have bureaucrats such as the CBN making policy now. Then the outcome of it is what is policy. Now, when we look at most of this policy now, such as the one you mentioned, the minimum wage. The minimum wage was, the last time it was implemented, that was 2010. It was fought against that, okay, people cannot be receiving 33,000 naira, increase it to 77,000 naira. But then 77,000 naira is not enough to meet the demands of the people right now, looking at the current inflation. Inflation currently is at 3.88%. So if you are receiving 77,000 naira, your position power would definitely be reduced. That means there is an inflation, and then you can't even buy what you need. Then, when we now look at the subsidy, petrol first subsidy, so many people blame that this policy is bad. There are times that urgent needs urgent measure. When the president came on board, he said he's going to remove the first subsidy, and subsequent governments have wanted to remove it. And then this same current administration that implemented it were one of those that were actually accusing the former government, that's government of Jonathan, when he removed it. And when he removed this, it was the fare price was 195 naira. Now the fare price is more than 1,000 naira. So this is affecting the people. And we, the youth, are saying that though the governments are making decision, but then they need to ensure that this decision, there is a way they can assuage it so that the people do not suffer.
Thank you very much. It's almost like you have touched on everything that I've mentioned, and you also included the idea of the youth. I'll also put it that, we have the larger number here in Nigeria. The youth constitute for about 70% of the population. But how come when policies are still being made, for example, the minimum wage, almost everybody that goes out to work nowadays cannot even account for 10% of their salary as like untouched. It's almost like when you calculate food, water, transportation, your salary is gone, plus debt. Do you get it? And now it's almost like, yes, they come out and say this policy is meant for, you know, to improve the livelihood of Nigerians, is going to improve this, is going to improve that. But it's always the opposite. If you were going to advise, let's say, if we're going to advise the governor of Lagos State, what's the first thing you ask him to do amongst all these policies that has been put on place, from minimum wage act to the fuel subsidy, that we still even heard that subsidy is still even being paid even after 1,000 something naira. So what would be the first thing, or would I move it from the governor? Let me take it straight to our Baba at the top. What's the first thing you would consider that he should take as priority, regardless of this constitutional review where we are changing national anthem, as opposed to the kind of issues that are happening now?
I'm bringing uniform.
Yeah, so please tell me what the first thing you think as a youth, because I want us to now address things like with maturity, not the idea of lazy youths. We're always talking on the surface. We don't know what we are doing. If you're going to pick from the priority of things that has been mentioned by the government, what's the first thing that you think that they should do and they should do right?
All right, thank you. I have to note that even though the minimum wage has been benchmarked to 77,000 naira, some state governors have not implemented. Some are not even ready to implement. And we've seen some state governors coming on board to say, oh, we'll pay more than the 77,000 naira. You have you see like Lagos State, Rivers State paying 80,000 naira. But then in terms of what the federal government needs to do, you know, the Nigerian Labour Congress, there are those that fight for the right of the common masses, the common workers. They give the formula, they give their own proposal to the federal government, which is actually very adequate. That as a government, you need to ensure that the people can take something home that can meet their demand, the education of their children, they can provide their basic needs, and for survival. So they say that the federal government should ensure that at least a worker should be able to take home 500,000. But then if you can implement that, make it 100,000. Because if you look at it, you made mention of the Constitution Labalu in the National Assembly now, which has passed the second reading, and that's the tax reform. You realize that in the old tax reform, even those that are collecting 33,000 naira are being taxed on 1,000 naira each almost every time. So now the Nigerian Labour Congress is saying, even though if you increase this benchmark to around 500,000, you can still tax these people and you can still generate revenue. So the government should look adequately into the proposal being submitted by the Nigerian Labour Congress and ensure that they work towards that. Even though this current administration has said that he is working to ensure that the needs of the masses are being met, and he also said that development is a process that is not going to just change everything at the moment, but is going to make it gradual. So we just look.
So before I allow God's Beauty take her question, you mentioned the Labour Congress, and in today's newspaper, the Labour Congress says they're going on strike, and because they want the administration to implement certain things. But I think in my 20-something small years in this life, I've seen the Labour Congress go on strike like back to back, back to back. And the truth is that things have never necessarily been implemented when they go on strike. It's almost like when they go on strike, they'll call them to the back door. They now say, we'll suspend the strike for another 3 months. We give the government this so amount of months, and they will come back again. But they must have shut their mouth somewhere. Definitely. And if you really go down to the grassroots level, some don't even know that Labour is going on strike. Some don't even agree with Labour in the first place. So I think that I'm a bit indifferent when it comes to what Labour is offering, what they are saying, 500,000. If we really look at it, 500,000 for me is unrealistic. Looking at the kind of income that we always have, our GDP cannot necessarily fund. We are in so much debt. What I think that they would do is to reduce the cost of governance. If they can reduce the kind of money that probably most of the politicians earn.
They said they have reduced it now.
For 6 months. That was the information, that they reduced by 50% for 6 months. But I think we've never heard of anything. There's no headline that has gone on. This was the amount that 50% took out from the House of Rep or House of Assembly members. So that's why I said I'm a bit
All right.
Somehow about this whole labor thing. So let me allow Gosby to take our question right now.
Do you have to say something
Okay,
on that?
yes. Regards to what you just said, you've said so much, and the aspect of the effectiveness of the strike and the bribery that comes with Nigeria Labour Congress. What is very synchronous that we really need to take note this particular morning is that the Nigeria Labour Congress are doing so greatly. You know, proposing 500,000 doesn't mean that they have to give them 500,000. Okay. The 500,000 is a benchmark for negotiation. Right. Whereby you have to meet with the government, okay, is it 250, is it 150? And on the government reducing their salary, you know, this is an issue that took place in 2019 where the National Assembly is saying that the executive should first reduce their salary before it starts questioning.
Yeah, humans as usual.
The revenue we generate in Nigeria is majorly used to pay the salary of this particular arms of government. So it's quite unfortunate. Hopefully they look into that.
So what do you think should be done? I mean, I like the way you ended the conversation, right? Do you think this, I mean, according to some persons, these people are here to serve us, right? So why are they being paid when they are serving us? Like,
no, naturally, you would expect that we're literally serving our audiences now and they were still being paid. My only issue is with the amount. It's like the gross salary. They'll say the basic salary, just like they do in certain companies. They say basic salary is maybe 100,000, and then they'll now put some church everywhere. You see inconvenience salary, housing expenditure, car expenditure, damages, plenary sessions, going home, coming back, sitting down, standing up, breathing. So I just feel like there's so many things that should be done. But what I want you to put together is that you're now saying that the minimum wage, like going back to my question, you're saying that the minimum wage should be the first thing that our president should get well and get right. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Before every other thing?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so
what will now happen to the fuel subsidy? I mean, if you remember during the time after that protest we had, I think on that protest or so, where he came out to address the nation and he said that, you know, some of the reasons why we are seeing this kind of things happen and the reason why we are in this state that we are is because he's putting in long-term solutions and not short-terms. So I really don't know what that is, because if you are saying you're bringing in long-term solution, are you saying that we should now be where we are? We should now be in the kind of position that we are in right now, paying fuel, probably very soon we'll start paying 2,000 naira for a litre.
All right. You know, the aspect of this particular first subsidy remover, why he came on board, Nigeria was in debt. And the current debt of Nigeria is about 140 trillion naira. And that's too much. Meaning, and that 158 trillion naira, we keep servicing the debt, meaning that we keep paying so much to ensure that.
And they are still collecting. Maybe it was last year they collected 2.2 billion naira.
Yeah, so like we are saying, so what he did was to ensure that, okay, for the future generation, to ensure that they don't come to meet these debts. And that's one of the long-term solutions. Do
you think that's going to work?
No, I think the World Bank actually dropped, I think, a PDF stating how many loans that the current administration has paid. Oh, okay. And it's even as far back as the days of Obasanjo.
You can imagine.
So there has been debts from like every administration has been accumulating. And because of the current exchange rates, if you were owing, maybe if Nigeria was owing 5 million naira then, it's almost like we're owing 300 million naira now. Do you understand? And then interest is being paid on these loans, right? Yeah. Interest is being paid. Yet, if you keep paying interest, there's one thing I always say about loan. That's why I always run away from anything that has to do with loan. Especially if you tell me that you collect interest. If you increase interest every day, you might start paying. I think the current interest rate now that the CBN gave is about 33.3%, about 33% interest rates on loans and all these things. So let's assume that I take a 5,000 naira loan. The interest is 33%. The problem is that I'll keep paying that interest rate continuously, not being able to afford the actual amount that I am owing. So it's almost like when you say future generations to escape this loan, it's almost like we're going to keep paying loan. Exactly. Because as he's paying some,
they are also collecting.
We're incurring another.
Yeah, or recent, he wrote a letter to the National Assembly where he collected certain amount of money. But however, if you look at the loan he's collecting and the loan the former administration is taking, it's quite different. And that's why the tax tax reform bill is in the National Assembly.
Okay.
Because if the tax that is in the National Assembly can yield results, there's no need for loan. But then I know this task is controversial. And
yes, well, we'll go on a break right now, and then when we come back, we'll discuss how the youth can play a role in holding government accountable for its policy and ensuring that they benefit all Nigerians. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Another is here. God's agenda for 2024 is wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing that makes things work. Everybody needs the oil of wisdom. The challenges are changing dimensions. So the wisdom to deal with them must keep changing dimensions. It's time to get wiser.
God terminated 8 years barrenness in this exalted altar.
I get back to a set of twin baby boys at 50 years after 17 and a half years.
Lord, I need the baptism of this ever-winning wisdom. Shiloh 2024 is December 10 to 15. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Welcome back from that break. We've been having a conversation about the impact of government policies on the economy, the society, and individuals at large. We have a wonderful guest here who has been analyzing the role that the youth plays and has been speaking generally on the things that should be held as priority and the kind of implementation that should be made. But first, welcome again, Enitan. I like that you are here. I need to mention that again. But I need to ask you, what role or how do you think that the youth can hold government accountable? Not the elderly people now, not Twitter fingers, not what we do on the internet, saying and talking and then nothing is being done. How do you think that the youth can hold government accountable for the policies that they implement or they suggest to benefit not just we as youth, but all Nigerians in general? Because they will say that we are the future of tomorrow. We, the youth now, are going to be the ones in power in future, even if they don't want to leave the power. But then they say that we are going to be the ones there in the future. We are the future of now, we are the future of tomorrow. So how do we ensure that we hold these people accountable so we don't also meet these debts that maybe some of the past administration have left, and they will now continue things that they used to call village people cost. We'll now carry it on and then give it to the next generation again. How do you think that we should address this?
All right, thank you. Foremost, some of the youth, they don't know their leaders, and they don't know the institution of government. When we look at the structure of the government from the federal to the state to the 774 local government to the 810 wards, and then local government chairman, councillor, and all that, we realize that when we are electing these people, we don't elect credible people, because the most problem with Nigeria do have is the aspect of election. I mean, a situation whereby the people that we are being elected comes into the position, and during their campaign, we know that they are not credible, but it is the youth themselves that champion this particular certain people to come into the position. Now, how do these youth question these people when they are not making the right policy or the right decision? That's the problem. But then the solution forward is the aspect of education. The youth needs to get educated. And in terms of education, it's necessary not to be in the classroom. It can be a kind of education whereby seminar can be held, whereby these youth attend and educate them. Another thing is the youth needs to ensure there is a kind of synergy, relationship. The youth have representative also. We have youth people in position. We have the current digital minister is a youth. Most of the special advisors, they are youths. So the youths themselves need to ensure that the youths there, they can actually lobby through them to hold leaders accountable, because many of these leaders, the president, we do not have direct access to them. But then the youths that we've elected or we selected in terms of appointment, because the youths gathers to select certain kind of people into position, they just recommend and then they appoint. So this particular youth that are up there, we need to ensure that there's a kind of relationship keep existing so that we can lobby to ensure that good policies are being made. And then also there is a recall. Our representatives that are not working, we can find a way to call them back through referendum, public opinion. These are ways of impeachment. Many of the youth don't know about this. So these are ways to hold them accountable. When a particular senator or House of Representative, or even the president, this current president has been threatened by the North that he won't get his return ticket. So this is a kind of holding him accountable. So the youth can also do this from their various wards, local government area.
There's a lot of controversy to some of the things that you have said. While some of them are possible,
maybe practical
or practical, it's almost like it would never happen. I'm not trying to be absolute here. I'm just saying that that's what. No, not that it's the truth. That's what it looks like. That's what we have adopted. As youths, I always fight with a lot of people when I ask, so what's going to happen next year? And they're like, we party hard. And I'm like, is that like the only thing that's going to happen next year? Because how are you going to party hard when you cannot afford transport to the party? Do you understand? So yeah. I like that you mentioned education, awareness, but civil societies who are now lobbying for these things are now doing it for their own pocket also.
Yes.
You understand? We now have civil societies where we're now supposed to say, okay, let us align with these people. But by the time they now bring their own, it's always talk and no do. Do you understand? We also see youths who are special advisors, who are digital ministers, and all of that stuff, not implementing what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to implement. From the basics of godfatherism, from the basis of recommendation, I'm only recommending you because you have been my boy, you have been carrying my bag for the past 5 years, with no background to it. I think even when she read the news from the New York Times this morning, we had issues with Trump trying to recommend somebody that had no traditional idea of what it takes to run that department. And that's one thing that has been very common even in Nigerian politics. So as much as public opinion is there, you mentioned referendum and all of that stuff, how many of us actually take to this thing to ensure that we will go through the stress? Naturally, youth, maybe the thing have passed first step, second step. It's almost like we're like, oh please, I can't do it anymore.
After the end protest and the hunger protest, now it's more like everybody is on their own right now. Probably till 2027 we'll know what's going on. But I mean,
2025 is there. That's what, when you mention the local government officials, all of these things, these are they intentionally put their heads, they put their puppets, they arrange them in this basic level, because obviously if Tinubu decides that I want to call this number of people to come and tell me what the youth needs, and then I had already put my own personal person as the local government chairman, the secretary, the councillor, the this, the that, do you think that they'll ever project what is really needed in the grassroots? That's the first question I want you to answer. Do you think they'll ever project it?
Okay, there's something you say, like politics comes with reward, and we should not let that go.
No, of course. I'm not saying that reward shouldn't happen. What I'm saying that your reward should be earned, not just by the fact that you have been a bag carrier and you have added no input to what should be done.
You have no business with the department or wherever that they want to put you in, but because of all the help, like you said, carrying bags and all of that, so you just use it that, let me just...
Do you understand? That's what I need you to understand that. I'm not saying that you should not be rewarded. Obviously, if I'm into politics, if I've strived hard for 5-10 years, And I feel like at some point somebody should see how much work I've put into that place. Of course, I would love a reward and say, okay, you know, I know that you do great in this department, then come and join. It's different from I know that I have no idea about this thing, and then I ask you to just come in and you're learning on the job. I don't think that politics is learning on the job. Politics, you know what you are doing.
Exactly.
And so therefore you should do it to help the multitude of people that you are watching over. It's almost like every time we call on to God, we expect that he knows what to do to help us, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I see the government. The government is people who have sort of have it figured out, or they have a framework to help us do things that is going to help Nigerians in general. Also, civil societies don't always know that politics starts before you get candidature.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the civil societies want to help after you have become a candidate because they don't want to waste money. But they don't know that most of the time, they enfranchise good people from the primaries, even from raising your hand up that you want to contest, they just cover you up. So I feel like when you mention all these people coming into place to account for and then demand for accountability, they don't go to the root of the problem. They just want to go from the surface, from accounting for 35% female affirmation, when we have not even gone to the grassroots to ensure that a woman, a credible woman, must get to that point where she is a candidate to be voted for.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that there's so many controversies to what you have mentioned. I like that you have analyzed it, but there's a lot of front and back with that thing. So if you have something to say, please say, then I will allow Godspeed to take over.
All right. So when it comes to having good people, you know, in power, in position, is a good one. You know, there is a need for competency, and if there is no competent people in various positions, it becomes a problem for the nation, like you rightly mentioned, and that's why the country as we are right now is also agitating that we should make good policy. All of this still borders to policy. And that's why if you don't even elect good people, how do they make this policy? And the youth, how can the youth even hold them accountable? I mean, looking at we have constituency, and we have different representatives from constituency. Most of these people, do they ever come home? And that's what the youth needs to ask themselves. When it is 4 years' time, they come around, they want to occupy position. And at that time, they probably bribe some set of youths to eat to their demand. And then they come again. And then such youths cannot hold them accountable. And even aside this grassroots politics, even at the national level, this still played out. The governors and the Senate and some senators are even threatening now, especially governors. Governors are threatening the senators and the House of Representatives that if the bill does not pass through, they will not get return tickets. So these are issues that with the youth, we watch from afar. But then the one we can solve from our own various ways, we do solve. But what we do majorly at the time is to lobby these people. Of recent, an House of Representative member in my constituency, Jimmy Benson, is somebody who has been doing so quite well. He comes home regularly, he meets the needs of the people, he empowers the youth. And at this time, we can say, oh, the next ticket is going to get it. But then, other constituency and different local government, it might not be happening. You get? And then what are the youth doing? Are the youths threatening? Because you don't have to go to the social media before you threaten. There are people that you can lobby that be telling him, be giving him signals that, oh, if you don't do this, you won't get back. So these are ways, because if they don't, they're not going back to that position. I mean, they will work.
So not going back to the position. Honestly speaking, when we talk about elections and all of these things, this is how I see it. And I'm sorry that I see it in this light, because that's how it looks like. It looks like these people already know who wants to be on seat. So most of the times when we are doing this whole election thing, it's probably just for formality. It may not be like, say, we know do them. That's how sometimes it plays out. Or even if the election do count, they will not pay certain persons. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then after they pay these persons, I mean, it's not surprising that certain persons are now on seats, right? You're talking about lobbying and all of those things. Trust me when I say that these are good plans, these are good initiatives. They do make sense. But somehow these things are not working. We come out for protest, those things are not showing up. Now, we've talked about the government policies. Let's talk a bit about the impact, how the impact has been on the economy, right? The people in general. What do you think should be the way forward for us now? Because, it's one thing to say that, oh, this is what the youth should do, this is what the youth should do, right? But what do you think the people should start taking note of? We have the old... the president saying that, he wants to be going for long-term solutions and not short-term. Forgetting that this thing would actually, look at the impact so far. It has not been great. Everybody has been complaining from hunger this one to this one feel. Some people now are even trekking. There are now people getting bicycle. Nobody is entering bus anymore. For real, for real.
For a living.
You see? So, what do you think we should start doing? The people now.
Okay, policy. Governments make policy. And there are various policy. We have policies of trade investment, we have fiscal policies, monetary policy, infrastructural policy, so many policies. But the issue now is implementation. That's where we are getting it right. I'll give you an instance of a policy that a particular government made, and that is the policy that Muhammadu Buhari made in 2019 on to ensure that our local manufacturer, that's producer of rice, ensure that they don't have foreign rice competing with the local rice. That is import. We have to discourage more of imports and export. So, like at that time, our borders was closed, and then rice. It is expected that that kind of policy will encourage the increasement in the GDP, because when there is production, then our GDP will, and the standard of living on the workers also will be efficient. Employment opportunities for people, because when we are importing, we are bringing in people from out of the country to come and set their business and to come out. So now, everybody expected that this is going to. But then, what happened? There was insecurity of food, there was scarcity, there was inflation. At that time, bag of rice increased, and in Nigeria, that's what majority of Nigeria eats. So that's a good policy. Then there's another policy that a government came on board also, and also put in place. The policy of Naira redesign. Some of us may see it as a bad policy, but that was the good policy, because that Naira redesign, it was. The Naira redesign was a policy to change the 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes, and this was to ensure that it reduced inflation, to ensure that value is added to the naira, then also to prevent ransom, like kidnappers have a lot of money.
But how did the implementation? Did you see the turnout of the implementation?
Exactly.
But this is it here. How can one person bring out a policy and implementation is your problem? It shows that you probably just bring out this policy for your own interior motive. That is how it is looking like for me. Tell me how you come up with a solution plan and you don't follow through.
Thank you. That's why, if when I talk about the Eastern structure of formula of implementation, I talk about bureaucrat. Now, that particular policy that was made was by the CBN governor, recommended to the Federal Executive Council, and hopefully they had imagined that it will work. That's why many people keep fighting against this tax bill. It's a good policy if you look at it very well. But then, how is it being implemented? So if we can get the implementation right, then we'll have no problem. So I feel like...
So we would soon... We're running so much out of time. I want to... Do you think that the advantages now outweigh the disadvantages when it comes to implementation of policies in Nigeria? Because you have mentioned so much about the policy, the implementation, how we can hold them accountable, what is not working, what is working, the fact that we, the youth, if this thing happens, our hands are tied with chainsaws, and then there's nothing we can do. Do you think that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of implementation of policies in Nigeria, or we should just naturally, as a people or as an economy, just live with whatever it is that comes by the government?
Okay. And why is the implementation not always being implemented? Like, why is whatever they are doing, the solutions, not always being carried out? Is it lack of manpower? Is it lack? I want to understand what they are lacking that is making the implementation the problem.
All right, starting from, I feel like we elected these officials, all these House of Assembly, House of Representative into position. So since we elected them, foremost, we should give them support. And it is also expected that these people also should ensure that they carry people along through public opinion. So this is the only way that we can ensure that most of issues of policies can be adequately addressed. But then in the aspect of implementation, there are parameters that is meant to be in place. Okay. And our system is just very corrupt.
Thank you. I just want to, while I like to live with a good pattern shot, like something like a call to action, something that has to do with hope. I want us to leave this conversation at corruption in capital letters, underlined, in bold. Corruption. That's what I've been waiting for you to mention since. The fact that corruption is one the major reasons why implementation always fail. The fact that budgetary everything always goes down to when there are corrupt individuals there, everything becomes rubbish. But I really appreciate that you have this wealth of knowledge and you have come to share with the people, the audiences and everybody. So I appreciate you a lot. I feel like if any of us has not said anything on our YouTube page, please go on our YouTube page now and leave your comment and your suggestions for how implementation can be done. Ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channels. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Hello, you. Yes, you. This is Usayome Sale from Ways Primetime. Now, we appreciate your continued support for watching our content, following us across all our social media. But we've noticed, for those of you watching us on YouTube, 88.5% of you who watch our content unsubscribe to our channel. Why? Now, if you are enjoying our content, you enjoy our shows, and you want to stay updated on all things Ways, it's time to hit that subscribe button below. Now, subscribing isn't just for you. It's for the growth of our channel. It helps us get bigger and better. With your support, we can continue to bring even more intriguing and exciting content. How about you subscribing right now and being a part of our community?